Okay, we're correcting homework on page 100, the Larghetto by Clara Schumann. And as you might expect in the Romantic period, sometimes these NCTs are a little bit tricky to analyze. You might have a couple of choices. Okay, so it starts here with an appoggiatura. I'm looking at the F major chord, leaping down, stepping up, and going on, and then this F sharp, oops, let's back up to the A, does not belong in the D minor 7 chord, and that looks like it leaps up and steps down to an appoggiatura as well. But you could consider that it's a carryover from this A. La, 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 la. Okay, so if it is, then that A is going down to the G, possibly a 9/8 suspension, some kind of suspension, probably not to this F, because this F is just a pedal. All right, so just put a question mark by that suspension. And how about this? This F sharp is not in the chord. It looks like a neighbor going down and back up. All right. And then leaps up to another appoggiatura. Remember, that was the favorite thing in the Romantic era, with those long appoggiaturas. The pedal continues here. There's no F in the 5/7 chord in F. Sorry, I should write PED, because P by itself means passing. And going on here, we have leaping up to this grace note E. We still have to count these grace notes, even if they're small. That's an appoggiatura because it doesn't belong in the 1 chord. And what about the D? The D doesn't belong in the chord either. So is it passing? Yes, I think so. Or do we not count the grace note and say C, D, C, and say that's a neighbor? I think you would be right either way. Okay? And then we go on. Here is another neighbor here because it goes back to the C, C, D, C. Maybe that's a reason to call this one a neighbor as well. Up to you. Okay, going to this second line, we get an interesting situation here. The C and the A do not belong, so possibly they are a neighbor group. But I also see the little S here, so if we don't count this neighbor, if we count the C as going across to this C and resolving down to the B flat, we could say against the D, up to the C is a 7/6 suspension. Sorry, I thought that was a little S. That's measure 5. But could be a 7/6 suspension there. Question mark, question mark. Okay. And then here is an A that appears before the 3 chord. So that's an anticipation. And passing down. Some of these are pretty clear. Makes up for the ones that aren't. Here's another passing. Or is it A, C, B flat, A? So that would sound more like a suspension going down. You could be justified in calling that a 7/6 suspension, right? The A up from the B flat is a 7th. Question mark there as well. Okay. Sorry if you like everything cut and dried, because in the Romantic period it just wasn't that way always. Another anticipation here, so we get a pattern of sorts. And then going on to some pretty wild stuff, you do notice there is a pattern of parallel 6 chords here. Okay? Good enough on that one. Let's look at the next one, and this is a nice example because it's in the jazz literature, and finding some differences in jazz. You could analyze all the NCTs, but it just asked you to find some instances that were not typical, okay? And I think what we see here are 3 things, 3 appoggiaturas that are, first of all, unaccented. Here's one, and here's one. They're on a weak part of the beat, okay? Usually they would be on a strong part of the beat. And it's interesting about these two, in a D7 chord, D, F sharp, A, C, this E flat is really a flat 9. So you could call this a D7 flat 9. Kind of neat. And in a C7 here, C, E, G, B, D flat could be a flat 9. So that's something we haven't had before. An interesting bit of jazz there. All right.